Hello, I'm in bed. Don't worry, I've already taken care of business. I'm so relaxed when I make these videos because I don't expect them to be watched. And it really frees you up. Professionalism is out the window. Butter knife here. Beautiful lady. And let's talk about being who you are and the question of madness, because I feel that I have something to offer in this particular subject. If you're going to talk about the self, it's like, oh, we need to define the self, and that's a whole big philosophical question. Truth is that it kind of manifests, it solidifies as you get older. You kind of identify where you're at, and that can turn sour, or it can be a beautiful thing, or more than likely a mixture of both, right? You can get set in your ways, or you can. But the truth is that you can't be all things to all people. There are a certain set of qualities which are consistently manifesting and creating similar responses in similar situations. The self. The personality, does it exist purely inside the brain, and then upon death is a kind of wispy soul released into the... Of course not. The mind, when you go outside of your body, when you have an astral experience, you're still you. And the last time I can remember literally standing up outside of myself, I had long blonde hair, and I hadn't vocalized it or really dealt with it a lot internally, but I did kind of have a notion that my soul would have long blonde hair because it would be me when I was, in my sort of, late teens, early 20s, slim, long golden blonde hair and those dreamy blue eyes. You know what I'm saying? I stood up and I had to get the hair out of my face. It's like, oh my God, I've made this happen. Or that's what I thought the next day, So it does appear from my own experience, which I'm relying on, that who you are is shaping a kind of astral ghost that will be permanently dislodged upon death. Trouble is, who you are is also, it's quite heavily shaped by those astrological, if you like, the stamping, the qualities that you struggle with, and sometimes delight in, because it's just purely who you are. A certain set of dynamics, which in some parts it stagnates, in some parts it grows, but you start to identify, hang on, society wants me to be something, but then there's who I am, and it's very difficult to suppress, and if you do suppress it, you get problems. At the root of who you are, sexuality is quite strong, and I can tell you, and I think Dion Fortune, agreed with this from what I've read, that if you don't get that sorted out, everything else is a fucking problem. And believe me, that's true. So it's not as if you can just look up to these lofty heights and want to escape everything. No, you're dealing with it right from the root, right from the core, right from the animal self. And like, personally, if I said I was a kind of person, like, everything's a contradiction, right, with me, everything is in flux, if you like. And although there are certain very certain places where it's quite solid, there's a lot of flux going on, whereby I don't particularly like people. I don't particularly like the human race. I don't always like myself. I think, you get me when I say that, right? Because I'm a member of that human race. So I'm, constantly assessing, myself. If you look at the typical characteristics of your shamanic type, the guy who lives on the edge of the village, that quote from Terence McKenna where he says, the shaman don't give a fuck about your camera. He's looking at you. He wants to know who you are. And that really struck a chord with me. Get to the truth. What's it all about? Finding out who you are and trying to make the best of that. And, we're all very different, but I think that if you're directed a particular way, it's kind of inescapable. Like, say, for instance, if I wanted to become financially successful and, like everything that, say, for instance, that women desire from men, right? In a very stereotypical way. Like, you need to have, musculature, very commanding and confident and quiet. Keep your fucking mouth shut. Just do your job. Just supply resources and be confident about that. Be good in bed and have a nice car and have a future and a sense of, where things are going. Be the patriarch, right? Now, you don't have to necessarily, put it this way, if you're not that entirely, which in many ways I am, as far as I can be, if you know what I mean. Yeah, my last few relationships have been with pretty men in dresses, but in their minds they're women. And I love that about them, but I desire a certain maleness that they can offer me. And the roles are not too dissimilar, really, because you're dealing with the mind of a woman. And I'm not very feminine, I like to be that patriarchal, I like to assume that role. But what I can't do is pretend that I'm not, a guy running a small window cleaning business. I could feel the pressure. I could say, oh, my girl, she's gonna leave me for some guy with a lovely pressed white clean shirt and a nice, brand new car, because I'm not what society tells me, exactly what society tells me, a woman should desire. And if you start chasing that, it's going to unravel. What I'm saying is when you stick to your guns, you see, if you're not that, then who are you? And if who you really are, if there's a certain set of techniques and qualities, every now and then you're going to come across someone who is really mystified by that confidence, in the same way that your average blockhead just has the confidence of being an average provider type. What I'm saying is there's different ways of doing this, but what at first might seem strange or unacceptable can become extremely empowered when you realize that you cannot move against it. You kind of have to go with the flow, and you kind of have to develop that. And who's to say what one's destiny is? When you get these things that everyone believes they're supposed to have, are you really happy? And we're all going to fucking die anyway. We're all going to get old. We're all going to die. I've been thinking about this getting old thing. See, it depends how you're calibrated, doesn't it? As you get older, if you're satisfied and you're secure, in your own way, you're going to be okay. But if you're not, then you're not, are you? And if you're chasing who you think you should be, you're never really going to be secure in yourself, are you? So no one's going to be secure in your arms. You really do have to be who you are, but with an intention towards making that as wholesome as possible. You know, someone described me as mysterious recently, and I thought back, I thought, you know what, I never actually tried to communicate who I am, and that blankness whereby I could not possibly do that so early, and possibly not entirely ever at all, I decided that that would be unwise to try. And whereas in the past, you know, you might have been described as a dreamer, odd, strange. I mean, I have to admit she did say I'm weird sometimes. Sometimes. That's interesting. Weird all the time? No. We like that word anyway, don't we? If it's spelt with a Y. You see, what do you really have to be? And Crowley's got an answer for that, right? Every man and every woman is a star. Identify your true will and fucking go for it. Unfortunately, the world doesn't owe you anything in that regard. It's not going to be easy, is it? But deciding that you're going to go against it is only going to be worse. So you're screwed either way. But if you just decide to embrace who you are and try and do that wisely, then you're going to get on. You're going to get on further. You're going to, you know. Yeah, I'm a little bit tired. I'm struggling for words right now, but you could argue like I'm explaining myself on camera, like it's a very modern thing to do that. You know, sitting here on, you know, looking into my the black Obelisk from 2001, the teaching device that has come down from the sky, and I'm supposed to stare into it, and it tells me who I am, who I should be, and then I'm explaining back to it, you know, Obelisk, please, this is who I am. I'm right, aren't I? Aren't I? I'll be honest with you, I know it sounds arrogant, but I know that what I'm saying is true through bitter experience in the past, through a sense of isolation and a sense of inner questioning. And it wasn't possible, especially with a lack of understanding or, you know, guidance around me so much. Oh, poor me, you know. It wasn't possible. It takes time. And been doing a lot of running. I feel fitter. I'm ready to fuck. I'm ready to suck. I'm interested in a lot of things, and unfortunately I have to work physically quite hard, and the world's gone crazy, and everything's difficult. But through directing your strategy into just being who you are with respect and a little bit of honesty and humility, everything's only ever going to get easier, isn't it? You see, you're creating something. there's some words from a Samael song. Samael, one of my favourite bands. From before the beginning, we brought something along that lives, that grows beside ourselves, beyond comprehension. That sums it up beautifully. You're giving birth to something, you're creating something which will live beyond you. And the dumb fuck atheist, materialist type cannot see that because they don't have that sense of intuition. But when you really think about it, it's the only thing that makes sense. And this too shall pass. What shall be left? Now let's take that away from me. Yes, stop talking about yourself. Broderick, Wallace. Let's apply that to this beautiful country that I live in. The UK, Albion. Mythical Albion. It's dying. It's been dying for a long, long time. But what it was gave birth to something in the astral. And it's still there. And I've been in communication with that for a little while now. And it comes and goes, and it's a tricky thing, but it wants to reach out. And it also suffers from a sense of loss and a need to communicate. Tolkien was a vessel for this. Not that I would compare myself to Tolkien or, William Blake or whatever, that would be foolish, but I do firmly believe that these guys, were channeling that spirit of, the land, that sense of nationhood, even though it was in flux and changed over so many years and generations, there's still a core essence there. And that ties back in with a sense of self. You see, you can't just be a star in space surrounded by blackness. There are other stars. There should be a sense of community. There should be a sense of mythology. Even if someone like me cannot directly live in it, we can still contribute to it through the back door, because I'm a back door boy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I like to walk in through it. No one's walked in through mine yet, but it's still early in the day. Self, nationhood, the land, the gods, the spirits of the land. No man is an island. We do not have a proper mythology stretching all the way back that is intact in the physical realm. It exists in the astral, and it wants to communicate, it wants to exist. It's got its fingers into Tolkien's head, into William Blake's head, and it's made inroads. And it's afraid that, even though that it exists independently in an astral state, it still cares about its progenitor, the physical, ever-changing situation that gave birth to it. And yeah, one day, planet Earth will be fucking destroy the supernova or whatever. But that's not the point. That's like saying, what's the point in, doing anything? Because one day, it's, oh, what does it mean? Well, this is what I'm getting to. The meaning is in what is given birth into the eternal dimensions. I'll leave you to think about that a little while.